Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with my colleague, the Minister for Women and also the Minister for Employment, Michaelia Cash, and with Ken Lay and Rosie Batty, who are the Chair and Deputy Chair, respectively, of the COAG panel on reducing violence against women. An initiative, I should note, that was set up by my predecessor, Tony Abbott, whose commitment to the objectives that we're announcing, or the objectives we're seeking to address today, has shown great leadership for Australia. Now, violence against women is one of the great shames of Australia. It is a national disgrace. Already this year, 63 women have been killed by their partners or a family member. In New South Wales, in the last 3 days, 3 women have been killed in these circumstances and 1 baby. 3 incidents in 3 days. This is a disgrace. Now, the challenge that we face is addressing the consequences of this violence and making women, as the Minister said earlier today, safer on the streets, safer at home and safer online. And the initiatives, which collectively total more than $100 million, that Michaelia will take you through in a moment, seek to do that. But let me say to you that there is, in addition to combating violence against women, there is a huge challenge that we must address, which encompasses this, and of which domestic violence, violence against women, is but a symptom. Let me say this to you. Disrespecting women does not always result in violence against women, but all violence against women begins with disrespecting women. We, as leaders, as a government, must make it, and we will make it, a clear national objective of ours to ensure that Australia is more respecting of women. Women must be respected. Disrespecting women is unacceptable. It is unacceptable at every level, at home, at the workplace, wherever. And I'd say that as parents, one of the most important things we must do is ensure that our sons respect their mothers and their sisters, because that is where this begins. Violence against women begins with disrespecting women. And so this is a big cultural shift. Now, of course, the vast majority of men do respect women, but many do not. And we have to make it as though it was un-Australian to disrespect women. We must become a country which is known for its respect for women, and be proud that we respect women. That is a vital objective that I am determined to ensure my government leads, shows the leadership to be a nation that respects women. Now, there are very big challenges. There's been research done, which Michaelia can talk about further, which shows that, for example, 1 in 4 young men think it's okay to slap a girlfriend when you've been drinking. Now, many people would find that shocking, but there it is. There is a lot of work to be done. Respect is absolutely critical. And it's no accident that the helpline that we're providing additional funding for is called 1-800-RESPECT. Rosie and Ken have always understood that at the core of this problem is disrespecting women. Let's make it our resolution that Australia will be known as a nation, as a people, as a society that respects women. Michaelia.
Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here today in Melbourne with the Prime Minister, with the former Chief of the Victorian Police, Ken Lay, the Chair of the Government's Advisory Panel on Domestic Violence, and of course our fantastic Australian of the Year, Rosie Batty, who is a Deputy Chair of the Advisory Panel, to announce the very first decision of the Turnbull Cabinet, which was to endorse a just over $100 million women's safety package. I believe this sends a very, very clear message to the Australian people that this government places respect for women and gender equality and domestic violence absolutely at the forefront of its agenda. The Prime Minister and I have had a lot of chats over the last week in relation to our policy. It is something that I have worked on with Ken and with Rosie and with the Prime Minister for a very long time now. And I'm delighted that today we can formally announce it. Can I reassure all Australians that the commitment of this government is, as the Prime Minister has said, that all women in Australia and their children should be safe at home, should be safe on the streets and should be safe online. And I hope that is the mission of all of us across Australia. Because whilst there are any women and children in Australia who are not safe, we have not achieved our objective. In relation to the package that we're announcing today, the package is very much focused on the Commonwealth sphere of influence. We obviously work very closely with the states and territories, and I'm delighted that this morning I've had a number of my state and territory colleagues, First Ministers, call me and say, Michaelia, we are on board. What can we do to work with the Commonwealth Government to end the scourge of violence against women? The package that we're announcing today has also very much been based on the initial advice that the advisory panel from Ken and from Rosie has already provided to COAG. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could now take you through the women's safety package, which does total just over $100 million. The first part of the package are practical action items that we can take to keep women and children safe at home. Because at the end of the day, the more that we can keep women and children safe in their own home, where they should be, it means the less we are going to be putting additional pressures on services, including refuges. We're going to be funding $17 million towards expanding the successful initiative to keep women safe in their homes, like the Safer at Home program, which basically enables women to get CCTV, to get panic buttons, to get better security systems, so that if a perpetrator is trying to break in, the police will be notified. We're also going to be trialling with the states the GPS technology. A number of states already utilise GPS tracking for high-risk sex offenders. We don't see any reason why this GPS tracking technology cannot be used by those people who are going to basically end up, if we're not careful, killing a woman. And so that is certainly something that we're going to be looking at. We're also going to be expanding the already very, very successful program in relation to the provision of mobile phones. We're going to now be allocating up to 20,000 mobile phones across Australia to women who need access to technology, but the technology they currently have may be compromised. We're also, though, going to be giving $2 million to Men's Line, because it is so important that when there are men out there who are putting up their hand and saying, I need help, that we as a government respond to that. So very much the first part of our package responds to keeping women safe at home. The second part of our package is very much informed by much of the advocacy of Rosie Batty, and that is in relation to ensuring that we have better training for frontline services. People often forget that the first person that a woman goes to when she leaves a relationship or when she is in fear of her safety could be a doctor, it could be a nurse, it could be the police, it could be a magistrate. We need to ensure that when women come into contact with these people, they have had the training that they need to properly respond to that situation. We saw what happened just recently in Queensland with 24-year-old Tara Brown. She did go to the police, and unfortunately she was turned away, and I know that there is an investigation that is currently being undertaken in relation to that. But again, it just highlights the need for our frontline services to be better trained. We're also looking at ensuring that women who do go to services are provided with a holistic approach. We don't want women having to travel between different services, telling their story 10 times, because often they tell their story once and they don't want to have to do that again. So we're going to be working with the states and territories in identified domestic violence hotspots to provide people on the ground in certain centres that are able to provide that one-stop advice for women. We're also going to be working with hospitals because, as we know, many women will end up in hospital. If we can get a service to them at the hospital, again, that will provide them, I hope.
We'll leave you with Michaelia Cash and the Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and leave you in the hands of News 24 and see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
General practitioners to ensure that the training for GPs going forward does include domestic violence. General practitioners in Australia, on average, see up to 5 women a week that have suffered from domestic violence. And yet their medical degrees entails only 2 hours of training on domestic violence. We believe that if we can partner with the General College of Practitioners and ensure that the up to 32,000 people that are currently practising in Australia have the requisite training, they then will be in a much better position to deal with the women that come to them. And of course, though, as the Prime Minister has identified, if you are not tackling the root cause of this problem, which is gender inequality and respect for women, we will keep on having this conversation. So part of our package is ensuring that the Safer Schools website is properly resourced. I was delighted 2 weeks ago when the Curriculum Council announced that no later than 2017, respectful relationships programs will be embedded in the Australian education curriculum and will be rolled out in schools across Australia, starting from kindergarten through to year 10. Because as we know, when it comes to the attitude of young boys in particular, as the Prime Minister has said, it's absolutely devastating that up to 25% of young people think it's okay that you can slap a woman if you've been drinking. They also think that hitting a woman is just a sign of male strength. That is the size of the problem we are facing, and so we are making a $5 million investment to expand the Safer Schools website, again to ensure that the resources that are being provided to teachers, that are being provided to parents and that are being provided to children are based on the best available research. So the package today, the Women's Safety Package, it's a holistic package. It responds directly to keeping women safe at home, providing them with the practical technology that they need to ensure that they have that mobile phone that they know they can utilise. It responds very much to the integration of services, the training of frontline services, but we're also going to be tackling gender inequality. So, Prime Minister, thank you. Thank you on behalf of all the women in Australia for your commitment to the Women's Safety Package, but in particular for making it very, very clear, and I'm not going to breach any Cabinet rules here by saying what happened in Cabinet. However, I think people will understand that when I say that the Prime Minister did make it very clear to us in our first Cabinet meeting that within his government, respect for women is going to be a #1 priority. I do believe that is going to be a game changer in this country. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and I'll now hand over to Rosie Batty.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you, Michaelia. I'm really very emotional. I've worked really hard this year. I've spoken at over 250 events and reached over 50,000 people, trying to get this message across of how serious family violence is in our society. There have been thousands of people through decades working so hard to get to this point where we accept and acknowledge this is a gender issue. We have 2 women a week being murdered, 1 in 3 women affected by violence, and 1 in 4 children. We finally are starting to hear from the leaders of our country that they are addressing this issue, that they recognise the responsibility they have to lead our society, our communities, by speaking the language we need to hear. Not just talking the talk, but they're now starting to walk the walk. I think there's going to be a lot of people today recognising that this is a huge signal that no more research, well, more action. And it is very moving. It is very moving. We have still a long way to go. But by recognising the gender issue that exists, by the Prime Minister stating that we need to respect and value the contribution of women as equals, and that we have a vision of an Australia that is proud of respecting women. That sends the message far and wide, and I'm really, really pleased I was able to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosie, Prime Minister and Senator Cash. It's interesting to actually look around this room and see some people that we've worked with over the years to try and move community attitudes. We've worked hard. There's been lots of spoken word, lots of written word, but I'm not sure anything has been quite so powerful as when we have the Prime Minister of our country, one of his ministers, stand up here and speak beautifully and eloquently about the drivers of family violence. This is the opportunity for us to change a culture. So I thank you, Prime Minister. I thank you, Senator Cash, for your work over the last 12 months with both myself and Rosie to do this work, and I look forward in the next little while providing you with some more advice.
Good.
To hopefully move this matter forward. I don't think any of us will be surprised that in the next, whether it's in the next day or the next 2 days or the next week, we will see another example of a woman losing her life as a result of family violence. So whilst today is a great step forward, there is still so much more work to be done. And both Rosie and I are committed to ensuring the advisory group gives the Prime Minister, his Cabinet, the Premiers and the First Ministers in this country the best possible advice to address this issue. So just quickly, the technology announcements are very positive. For too long, those of us, particularly with a police background, have seen women terrorised and hurt and damaged by men using technology. The opportunity now is to actually think a bit more broadly in this space to help make women safer. Senator Cash spoke about the better we need to get better in the way we respond, the first responders in particular. And those of you, I think, that have heard Rosie's powerful yet very sad story would understand that first responders at times do let victims and their families down. So again, this is an enormously important part in actually making sure the response is better. And Rosie, I'm sure you won't mind me just commenting that in the next little while there will be the coroner will make some comments about young Luke's death, and I'm sure again that will reinforce the need for frontline services to understand this issue better and respond far better to the people who need us most. And finally, the piece around respectful relationships is enormously important for our community. The Prime Minister and Senator Cash have spoken about some research, and we've had some access to some other research that it's a bit early to let it release it at the moment. But it tells a sad, sad tale of attitudes by boys, teenagers and men in their attitudes and their feelings towards women. It underscores the amount of work that we have to do to get this right. So just in finishing, that attitude piece is very, very important to me. And I just make this point again. When the leaders of our country talk about gender inequity, they talk about power, they talk about the sense of entitlement, it actually starts moving the culture. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.